Delta Force is one of the newest FPS games on the market, and while this game has already seen its fair share of ups and downs, it seems like it's finally made its place in the FPS market. But there's still a few glaring issues that are turning people off of this game. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about the future of Delta Force, and if the game can live up to the players' expectations in the long run. There's going to be a lot of speculation involved since there aren't any big leaks at the time of making this video, but there's a decent amount of stuff in the 2025 roadmap that I want to talk about. And since Operation seems to be holding its own, I want to get into a few things I think the devs can do to improve the current state of the Warfare game mode. I probably won't have the best takes in some people's minds, so if you have any opinions of your own, then drop some comments down below. But with that out of the way, let's get this video started with the roadmap. So, we're currently in the second season of 2025. We got the night mode maps, the new weapons and attachments and so on, but as of now, we're still waiting on the kill cam, and Warfare players are still waiting on the new weapons to become available to them. I can't say much about the kill cam, but if I had to guess, we'll probably see it show up either in the mid-season update on the 22nd, or in the Warfare content update in July at the latest. As for the new weapons, they should be making their debut in Warfare on the 16th of May when this video goes live, with said weapons either being unlocked through the armory or a weekly event. The map updates we got this season are actually pretty extensive, with Threshold and Trench Lines getting the most eventful updates. The C1 objective on Threshold in the attack and defend game mode can now be destroyed if hit by multiple guided missiles, turning it into a neutral zone. With this change in place, the passcode location for operations has been slightly adjusted. And besides that, there's now an event in the last sector of the map where there will be an air support bombing on the C2 objective if the attacking troop force drops below 75 tickets, opening a new route to get into the building. Trench Lines has seen some changes as well, with overall extensions made to the map in the King of the Hill game mode, and the left side of the map has been expanded around the mountainside area between the E and F objectives. Aside from that, the number of tanks have been adjusted to make room for the new light tank in various maps, deployment times of vehicles have been adjusted, and various game mode mechanics have been adjusted or improved to create a better experience while playing. But let's come back to the content update in July. Like I was saying earlier, this content update is specific to Warfare. As of now, there hasn't been any leaks regarding this update or any future updates really, so this is where a lot of speculation comes in. The only thing players should expect is a working kill cam, and maybe a new map if we're lucky. Maybe the devs will decide to change up some of the zones in Warfare, but I think it's unlikely until the next season. I'd personally like to see some adjustments made in the A zone on Cracked in the attack and defend game mode, specifically the whole right side of the zone. In my opinion, it's completely unnecessary to have that much open space when literally nothing goes on there. It's also a bit annoying that the attacking team is given so much room to set up flanks or sniping positions behind the A zone, making it unnecessarily hard to defend the objective. It would make a bit more sense if the A zone covered a larger area, but that's simply not the case, and we'll probably never see a change like this in the future. I personally think the changes in the D zone of Trench Lines is pretty decent in comparison. They didn't extend the map bounds like they did with Cracked, and unlike most maps, it gives the defending team a better chance to flank and defend the points. The D zone in King of the Hill on Trench Lines is kind of pointless in my opinion. It just seems like a free objective for the team that spawns closer to the B zone. But I think it would make a bit more sense to have it somewhere in the middle of the empty hill area in between all of the existing objectives since nothing really goes on there. There would obviously be some work that needs to be done to add some actual cover in that area, since there's nothing around besides various rocks and hills to duck behind. But with the way it is now, it just seems to give a potentially unfair advantage towards whoever spawns closer to the B zone. The C2 or B2 area in attack and defend and in King of the Hill could use some work as well. Maybe it's just me, but I find it incredibly annoying when there's a bunch of enemy players hiding inside of the building, spamming their smokes or abilities as much as possible. I think it would be much easier to capture the point from the enemy if that building could be destroyed or if it was excluded from the zone entirely. But again, this is very unlikely to happen. Before I get into some potential improvements the devs can implement into the Warfare game mode, I want to go over the third season of 2025. Obviously, we'll be getting a new map for Operations and Warfare, along with some new gameplay features, weapons, and game modes. But if I had to guess, I think this is the season we'll be getting the fighter jet in Warfare, just based on this picture that they used. But I'm completely speculating at this point, so it's tough to say. The new operator we'll be getting should either be for the Recon or Support class since we've already gotten new operators for the Assault and Engineer classes, but it's also hard to say for sure because there aren't any leaks whatsoever for the next season. The roadmap suggests player mobility extensions that'll be in the third and fourth season of 2025, and I'm actually pretty curious to see what those are going to be. I have some high hopes that they'll give the operators the sliding mechanic instead of it being an exclusive ability on D-Wolf, but we'll just have to wait and see. It would be pretty cool to see something similar to the grapple hook from Battlefield 2042. Maybe they could make it a gadget instead of a mobility extension. but that's assuming they even added grappling hook in the first place. I'm just taking guesses, but there's a very small possibility that we could be getting better climbing mechanics or some wall running mechanics as part of these mobility extensions.
What?
But I don't think those mechanics would work very well in the majority of the maps in Warfare or Operations. I would assume the gameplay features we'll be getting will be similar to the destruction events in different maps like what we have in Ascension and Threshold, and the extensions and updates of existing maps are pretty self-explanatory. I just hope the devs decide to properly rebalance most of the map areas this time around. With the roadmap out of the way, I want to talk about a few things that I think the devs could do to actually improve the game and win over some of their lost players. The first thing they could do is stop lying to their player base. Whether it be lying by omission or just straight up lying through their teeth, these devs really need to be open and honest with their player base if they want to see their game live past a year. For example, they need to come clean with the whole bot situation. During the alpha playtests, the devs confirmed that they were using bots to increase the player count to make sure the actual players had a fun experience, but they've never clarified if they're going to minimize the amount of bots or if they'd stop using them entirely when the full game released. And with their SBMM algorithm in place, it wouldn't come as a surprise if they still use bots whenever and wherever they can. Considering how often I jump into matches with a total of 10 players or less, I think it's safe to say that bots are certainly still very active within the game. I'm not an Operations player myself, so I can't speak on whether or not they use bots in that mode, but if you play Operations and you've noticed any weird behavior from enemy players, then let me know in the comments below. Another thing these devs need to clear up is skill-based matchmaking. For those who don't know what SBMM is, it's meant to match you up with players of the same or a similar skill level to create a fun, fair, and balanced experience for all players. But unless you play old Halo games that actually implement this version of skill-based matchmaking, you're essentially playing the devs' version of a virtual slot machine. Modern skill-based matchmaking is meant to get you addicted to whatever game you're playing. Whether it's Call of Duty, Delta Force, or Halo Infinite, the devs want you to keep pulling onto that lever until you get that one jackpot, that one easy match. Then it's back to playing with the sweatlords that spend more time playing the game than they do spending time outside. And while Delta Force may not force a 50% win rate on their players like other games do, they still use this algorithm to keep you playing the game and spending your money as much as possible to make these games look good to their investors. But coming back to the real point, these devs are simply not being honest when it comes to how their matchmaking works. When the open beta was released on the 5th of December, the devs made it clear that they use skill-based matchmaking to create a fair and balanced experience like I mentioned earlier, but they only used it during peak hours when most players are on the game. But it's not meant to force a 1 KD onto players, and it's not meant to force a 50% win rate. But after some backlash, the devs have slowly backtracked the statement over time, and now they claim that there's no skill-based matchmaking whatsoever. But if you play Battlefield and Delta Force, you'll know that this statement is simply a lie. I know a lot of people dislike Battlefield 2042 to say the least, but a lot of people can honestly say the difference in matchmaking is night and day. It's kind of obvious that skill-based matchmaking is in the game when you consider how ranked and unranked matches aren't separated, as well as players that face queue times upwards of 10 minutes during peak hours in Operations and Warfare. Unless the Delta Force devs actually decide to switch their matchmaking algorithm to connection-based matchmaking, or they separate ranked and unranked lobbies at the least, I personally don't see myself playing for much longer. Something else the devs can do is open up the whole weapon pool to all operators in the game. I really don't understand why the devs made the decision to lock certain weapons behind different operators, but it's honestly pretty annoying. I like to play as the Assault class more than other classes in the game, but the weapon pool is honestly a bit small in comparison to the Support or Recon class, and it gets very boring. In the Assault class, you're only able to use a select amount of ARs, shotguns, and one marksman rifle. The Engineer class has a few more weapons, but it's about the same as the Assault class. The Engineers can only use a few ARs, the shotguns, and one marksman rifle, and they're the only class that can use LMGs. The Support class, on the other hand, can only use 4 ARs, all of the SMGs, and all of the shotguns. And the Recon class has a decent amount of ARs, 3 SMGs, 1 shotgun, all of the marksman rifles, and all of the sniper rifles. I'm sure this isn't a huge issue for a lot of players, but I can't think of a single reason why this would work better for balance rather than just giving players the option to use whatever weapons they want with whatever operator they want to use. I also want to mention Luna. Luna is a problem, honestly, and I think a lot of players would be happy to see her rebalanced or reworked entirely. Instead of seeing a long-awaited nerf to Luna with the new season, we saw yet another buff to her wall hack ability. With the Volt Arrow specifically, the detection time has gone up from half a second to a full second, which doesn't sound like a big deal on paper, but if you're a decent player, you can react and target detected players in half a second or less, and it's completely broken to say the least. I think the best thing the devs can do to nerf Luna without reworking her completely is to limit the enemy detection to the squad that Luna is in. It doesn't happen very often anymore in my experience, but there have been plenty of matches where I'm constantly getting detected by Luna arrows throughout the game, and it's a bit annoying to say the least. I think the burden of being detected would be lifted a bit if Luna's squad were the only players that could see when you're detected. Something else the devs could do is limit the detection to red dots on the minimap with only one detection ping. This is honestly the best change they can make in my opinion because it stops Luna from being overpowered, and it doesn't completely ruin the flow of the game for the opposing team. When it comes to this wallhack ability, I think the devs simply ran out of ideas. And if you ask me, I have no idea what the devs could do to replace the wallhack ability, but regardless, something needs to be done. For the TLDR folks, there's a lot of things the devs need to do to turn this game into something the majority of players actually enjoy playing. I'm not saying everybody hates this game, but it's not much of a reach to say a large number of players are unhappy with Delta Force at the time of making this video. I still firmly believe that this game has the potential to be a competent competitor in the FPS market, but right now, this is simply not it. The problem with the devs themselves is that they lie. A lot. They're lying straight to our faces when it comes to skill-based matchmaking, cheaters, and bots. But so do most devs nowadays. I'm not saying it's excusable, I'm just saying it's become the norm with modern games. In my opinion, if the devs really want this game to succeed, they need to open up the weapon pool, rebalance Luna, fix map flow and warfare, and figure out how to put some more content in the game at a fair pace to keep players interested. I understand if the devs are mainly focused on releasing the console version of this game for the time being, but based on some older leaks, the main issue with the console version is controller compatibility with the overall UI and the menus and operations. I'm not a game developer obviously, but I don't think it requires most of Tencent and Team J's resources to make sure those issues are resolved. I've said it plenty of times before, but this game just feels like a cash grab that the devs are using to fund other projects, and it would really be a shame if that's the case. Like I already said, I have hope that this game can become a real competitor to games like Battlefield and other extraction shooters, and in my opinion, Operations is really taking off in comparison to Warfare. But what do you think about Delta Force? Do you enjoy the game in the state it's in right now, or do you think the devs could be doing better? This game is far from perfect, but there are definitely things that devs can do to improve the current state of Warfare and even Operations. If you have some thoughts of your own, then be sure to drop a comment down below. As always, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button if you enjoyed the video. This helps the algorithm obviously, and I'd love to have you around. I stream Delta Force and sometimes Battlefield on the weekend, so come stop by and chat. There's not much more to talk about, so I'll see you all in the next video.